Guys, I've got a lot to cram into one video, but I'm just going to do it and get it out of the way. So, I've got a little cheat sheet going here, and that's the way it is. The first thing I want to talk about today is a video that I should have made about 2 weeks ago, and I got busy with South Tube and then the drama of the trip home and exhaustion and all that, and I'm just finally getting around to it today, so I hope this helps. I wanted to put out a message for Jeep Girl 2, which is Joyce, and I think we have most of the same subscribers, so if you know Joyce, go over there and ask her what you can do to help. Joyce is a cancer survivor. She and I initially made connections because we both drove Jeeps. We're both part of Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's team in training. I do marathons, which are 26.2 miles. Joyce usually does 100-mile bike rides, century rides. And for a change, she has decided to try a half marathon. So she's training for it right now in fundraising. And believe it or not, the physical part of doing it is not the hardest part. The hardest part is fundraising. And when you commit to the event, you commit to fundraising. And for her, it's a couple $1,000s. Even though she's a survivor and everything else, she has to raise the money to help do these events. And that's what the events are for, is to help raise money for cancer research. So if you're not subscribed to Jeep Girl 2, get over there. Number 1, subscribe, JEEPGIRL 2. And then find out where you can send her a check. If it's for $1, if it's for $5, if it's for $1,000. They all mean a lot. So do what you can do. She knows she's getting my check in the next week or two. The second thing is Melissa, Imperceptible Me. She was at South Tube 3 also, and we got to hang out just a little bit, but got to see what a wonderful, sweet person she is. And guess what I got in the mail today? I don't know how well the light will pick it up in here. Oh, my camera just froze. I hope this goes through. How much you can pick up here, but she sent me a flower in the middle of it here, and it has a nice clasp that I can hook myself. And Melissa, it is the absolute perfect length, so thank you so much. And I don't know if you knew or not, I collect blue glass, so this was absolutely 100% perfect, and except for my wedding ring, I only wear silver jewelry. So you hit everything right on the mark here. And a very sweet little note card with it. That was awesome. Speaking of things in the mail this week, in South Tube 3, Beth, and it's hanging in my closet, but I'm not going to get up at this second. Beth had on a great purple shirt when we were there, and I commented on it because I liked it, because I love 3/4 length shirts and V-neck shirts, and this was both. Guess what I got in the mail this week? She sent this shirt. And something for Alex and Johnny for cooking, a little Spam pop holder. How cute is that? Completely unexpected. Thank you, Beth. You're always so generous and kind, and we'd like you even if you weren't. On a more serious note, I know some of you saw me Twitter about it in the last couple of days. I have lived in the North Bay pretty much all of my life. And 20 years ago this year, there was a just gruesome, heinous murder where I'm not going to call him a creature named Ramon Salcido. Was high and drunk, and he took his 3 little girls. Some of you probably saw this on 2020 last night. Took his 3 little girls to this area called Stage Gulch Road, which we used to live about a mile from, and slashed their necks and threw them down the side of an embankment. One of the little girls actually lived. They found her 36 hours later in the ditch. He proceeded to go and kill one of his bosses and injure another boss at the Grand Cru Winery and another winery locally. He then went to his house and killed his wife, and then came to Lakewood Drive, which is about maybe a mile and a quarter, and killed his mother-in-law and his 2 sisters-in-law, which were young girls. And amazingly, the young lady, Carmina, survived. She just turned out to be a pretty well-adjusted young lady, even with the awful life that she's had to lead. Well, after seeing her, 20 years later on the story on 2020 last night, I was reading the newspaper and I saw that she was doing a book signing today down in Petaluma, the next town away from me. And so I took a ride down And if you see this book, pick it up and read it. It's an amazing story of survivorhood. Went ahead and had her sign it. And God, if you ever doubt that you can get through something, read her story. It says so much. Seeing the story last night of this animal, the man in that picture right there, who's still alive on death row after he killed pretty much everybody else in those pictures. And he has zero remorse, zero guilt, takes zero responsibility, zero ownership for anything he did. And to see all these people today and have such a positive outlook on life. If you get a chance to go hear her speak somewhere, like in a bookstore that's having a signing, go do it. Shake her hand, tell her you're proud of her. Yeah, a lot of it, like I said, it all happened in our area, and I'll never forget the day that it happened. My husband, my niece, and I were on our way down to LA for the weekend to visit a relative. And Petaluma is one of these towns you never hear of. You don't hear about Sonoma on the news and on the radio. And listening to the radio on the way down there, that's all we heard about all day long, were these gruesome murders. And every time you listen to the radio, you hear about another body and another body and another body, and it was so awful. And I don't think anyone that lives here will ever forget that day. It was April 14th, 1989. So, yeah, keep Carmina in your thoughts. You know, it took so much bravery for that girl to get up there today. It's not even funny. Another 20-year anniversary. It was 20 years, about an hour and a half ago, that the Loma Prieta earthquake hit San Francisco. And that's another one of those stories that I'll never forget where I was, what I was doing. Brief summary of it. It was the earthquake that hit during the World Series, the Bay Bridge series between San Francisco and Oakland. October 17th, 1989, 5:04 p.m. Even though some people say 5:02, I still think 5:02, but the news has been saying 5:04. 2 minutes, eh. But I remember I was working in like a 5 or 6 story building, and I worked way up high. So I took the elevator down after work, and I was going to go down and pick up my husband, and we were going to head home and watch the baseball game. Well, I was on the elevator with this big man, and I'm 5'10", so I'm not tiny, but big man. He was probably 6'6" or so. Big. Well, we get off the elevator, and the front of the building was all glass, and we walk out to the parking lot, and it looked like a lowrider convention. All these cars were bouncing all over the place. And he looks over at me and says, "Didn't think I had that much for lunch." And I went, "Okay." And we went over to my car, because I was parked in the first row, and turned on the radio, and there were no radio stations. Pushed all the buttons, turned the knobs, nothing. And it makes you think San Francisco had fallen off the map, because we were only, miles? 15? The whole Bay Area was in uproar, as I'm sure most of you saw on the news for weeks. I was looking for, I've got a book about it, and I couldn't find it before I came in here. It's out in the classroom somewhere. But yeah, so if you were a Bay Area native or lived here during that time, where were you, and what do you remember about that period of time? We didn't have any damage to our house other than the fact that we lost cable TV for a couple of weeks, which was hard because we wanted to find out what was going on. So we would just stop by my mom's house on the way home from work. My husband, he was at work also a few miles away from where I worked, and he had a young assistant. I think his name was Pete, and he was sitting at his desk, and he could see out to where the kid took the mail out every day. And when the earthquake happened, my husband looked up, and it looked like the mailbox was chasing Pete down the street. But those were kind of funny stories. Let's see, today was Johnny's school's homecoming parade, and he and Alex walked in it with the baseball team. I got for those of you that have iPhones, this one's so cool. I got it at Target for about $12. It opens. There's room for the phone to slide in and out. There's room for money, driver's license, credit card, whole bit. $12 or so. Couldn't beat it. It's got a cord where you can hang it around your neck. I wish I had this for South Tube, I tell you. And speaking of South Tube, I still have more. Like I said, if you haven't checked out those 3 people I mentioned at the beginning, Joyce, Melissa, and Beth, go check them out. And if you can spare $1, $2, $10, $1,000, do what you can to help Joyce with her fundraising for Team in Training. Go team, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.